help you out just a little bit with maybe a get out of jail free card. If you look at Roman numeral 3A, it talks about the coverage, and it says that you must, I've noticed the word shall, but the idea is that you must collect data on your applicants about ethnicity, race, sex. When? At the time of application, and we'll get there a little bit. Now, it talks about these covered loans, and that's a different webinar. I assume you already know that you're subject to HMDA and that you have to do it on these types of loans when it's dwelling secured. But the point is, you must do this. If you look at number 2, you'll see that you may collect. Now, let me back up just a minute to the must collect. Let me try that again. I don't do this very often, as I said in the beginning, but let's look at the Romanette here. Look at letter A. You got the italicized sentence that says the institution shall or must collect data. At the end of that in brackets, you'll notice that we're quoting from HMDA 1003. 3 is letter C it's representing. So HMDA says you must collect at the time of application. If we go to the may collect, I want you to notice at the end in brackets there, it's 1002. That's Reg B, the second letter of the alphabet. So what's the deal here? Well, Reg B, and I'll do a little Romanette here, 1002.5 says you cannot ask people for their race, sex, and ethnicity. You can't consider it. You can't even request it. Then we go over to another subsection of Reg B, 1002.13, and it says, unless you are doing HMDA, because you're a HMDA bank, or purchasing, refinancing a principal dwelling secured by the dwelling. That's the 2 exceptions. So Reg B's first sign is don't ever ask for this. Then it comes back and says, unless you're a HMDA bank. Now, this becomes a problem because HMDA has a lot of what I call kind of round pegs and square holes where not everything fits nicely. And so there's some problems. For instance, maybe somebody comes in and says, I want to refinance. And yet it's really not a refinance. We find out maybe it's a business loan, and it's technically they're wanting some money to do non-dwelling secured. And we started the process. Well, we've over collected then, and there's problems because this is from the initial application. Maybe it's a situation where you've got a mixed use property and you're not even sure if it's a dwelling or not. Maybe it's there's a commercial non-residential restaurant downstairs and above is apartments. We're not sure if it's a dwelling. So do we do HMDA or not? And we must collect if it is, but maybe we're over doing it because it doesn't get classified as a residence or a dwelling. And now we've got a problem. So they added this get out of jail free card, is what I call it, in A2 that says you may collect when you have business purpose loans, especially. And I want to say just especially because on the consumer side, pretty much everything's going to get collected. Purchases, refinances, improvements, and then there's that other that collects them all. It's these business loans that get really difficult because I'm not even sure if I have a dwelling or not. They're using the same terms that we would say, but we find out later it's not. That's the problem. So it's not an overkill across the board when, and always collect. It's if you're not sure, you can. Now, again, we want to put down here some notes probably. You want to put your pen and say, this isn't a permission to just willfully violate. We're not collecting on everything. If somebody is doing a car loan, for instance, we're not going to collect on that. If it's an ag loan, those are all exempt. If it's a spec house builder, we know that those are out. There's certain outs. It's that like refinance of equity that gets us in problems in a sense with business loans or mixed use properties, things like that. So know that this part of Reg B that told us, listen, if you ask, you're in trouble, you're in violation. But that little section that I've highlighted there for you, 1002.5A4, whatever, make sure you read that. And if an examiner tries to say, hey, you're over collecting, you say, listen, here's the logic that allows us to do that. At the time of initial application, we weren't really sure. And so we went ahead and collected. You can't shoot us for that. That's your get out of jail, if you will.